One of my favorite texts is Philippians 3:17, where Paul is wrapping up a big teaching block that runs from 127 to 4:1, where he's been giving different examples of what it looks like to live out the life of Jesus. And in 3:17, he says something really bold. He says, "Brothers and sisters, join in imitating me and observe those who live according to the example you have in us." I remember a number of years ago when I was learning to surf. This was back pre-2010, maybe 2009. And what was astonishing about it was at the same time I was trying to learn how to surf, my daughters were learning how to surf as well. And I was this bumbling guy about 40, 41 years old. And I fell off hundreds of times. But my youngest daughter, Katrina, she would have been 8 or 9 at the time, and we used to call her the super stick when she was growing up. She was so thin and tiny. And she was able to actually surf not on a full-fledged surfboard, but on just a little small bodyboard or a boogie board that you can basically, most people just use to jump into the waves. And I remember out at Cocoa Beach, the very first time I had her stand on the board. And again, she was light enough that this kept her up, and I pushed her into the wave. And I tried who knows how many times to surf and didn't catch anything. So I just pushed Katrina into this wave. And astonishingly, she just goes flying down the wave like she was a pro. And what was even funnier is she decided it was important for every other person at the beach that day to see what she was doing. So she just started screaming. It was so funny. She started screaming, "Look at me. Hey, kid, look at me. Hey, you, look at me. Everybody, look at me." And I remember kind of thinking it was funny, and then also kind of being embarrassed about it, thinking, well, I guess she's going to need to grow out of that, having everybody look at her all the time to see her great accomplishments. But then you go to this text, and what's Paul saying? And this isn't going to be a long video, but that's a powerful thought. What's Paul saying? Paul's saying, look at me. He's writing to the Philippians. He's literally writing to one of these first New Testament churches, and he has the audacity to say, if you want to see what it looks like to live the life of Jesus, look at me. And Paul goes even farther, not even just look at me, but when he says join and observe those who live according to the example you have in us, the us are two other persons that he mentions in the letter. Timothy is one of the co-authors of Philippians, and then Epaphroditus, who was one of the Philippian Christians himself, was probably the letter carrier that took the letter back from where Paul was in prison back to the city of Philippi. So Paul's basically saying, hey, you want to see what a Christian looks like? Look at me, look at Timothy, look at Epaphroditus. So what would the world see if we said, look at me, watch how I live 24/7, and you'll see what a Christian looks like? I don't know about you, but I want God to do enough deep work in me that if someone else would decide to imitate me, they wouldn't be led astray, and instead they'd get a little closer to Jesus. Hope you can join me in that journey. I'd love to have a conversation with you. But just remember that the world's watching. To whom does our life point? Paul could say, imitate me because my life points to Jesus. Till next time, live by faith, be known by love, be a voice of hope to others. Love to hear from you. You can email me deepdivespirituality@gmail.com.